Thank you and welcome back to the best I ever had. For those of you that watched my pizza recipe, I got a lot of requests for my sauce. So today I'm going to show you how to make a pizza sauce. It's a New York style spicy sauce. I think you're going to find it easy to make and very delicious. Start out, we need a nice pan. I like the saucepan, I like a thick one. Retains the heat good. You're going to need a blender to puree the tomatoes up. You're going to need a wooden spoon to stir the sauce. You're going to need one of these, whatever it's called, because you're going to have to scrape out the tomato paste. And you're either going to want to use a garlic press like this, or I like to use my knife, your choice. For the ingredients, I like to use a good quality tomato. I use Cento, Italian style, peeled tomatoes. Going to use 2 cans of these. Going to need a can of paste. I don't really care what the brand is on the paste. I buy it by the case. You're going to need some good virgin olive oil. Going to need some kosher salt. You're going to need some oregano, some basil. If you have fresh, fresh is better. I don't have fresh. You're going to want to get some red chili pepper. You're going to want some sugar, an onion, some garlic, and a half a stick of butter I have in the fridge. I'll pull out when we're ready for it. So we're going to start with our saucepan, and we're going to put a little bit of oil in the saucepan just to get the bottom coated. You don't want the sauce to taste like oil, but you need enough to cover the bottom of the pan. Okay, I got my garlic ready to slice up or use a press on it, your choice. I know what you're thinking, I should have used a whole clove, but trust me, a half a clove will be enough. What I like to do is I like to use this. When you use a garlic press, you put it in there, it makes the mist, goes all over the house. I want to set that aside. And I like to cut that little bit right there up before I begin. I don't want that in my sauce. And then if you're going to use a knife, be careful. Keep your fingers clawed in so you don't cut them off. Just kind of move back. What I'm trying to get is very, very thin pieces. I don't know if you can see that very well on the camera.
Hey, hold on.
Do another one for you in case you missed that. I cut that end off there. Get rid of that. And I keep doing this. Get rid of the end. Here's a good piece here. You can kind of see they're nice and paper thin in there. Okay, now that I got all my garlic sliced, you can see how thin it is. It's pretty thin in there. I take my knife and I want to go through and I'm going to cube it up now. You don't want big chunks of garlic in your sauce, you just want the flavor. One of the reasons I prefer using this dicing method over the press is this will let the flavors release in the sauce as it cooks, instead of that putting a big mist in there and dousing the sauce all at once. So, this only takes a minute to dice up. If you're using a knife, the more you do it, the faster you'll get at it. Be careful not to cut off your fingers. You need your fingers to eat pizza. So, the other thing I'm going to do with this garlic, I know you're thinking I should have more garlic for this, but trust me, this will be enough. The reason you're using this much garlic is you're not making a pasta sauce, you're making a pizza sauce. So you want the pizza sauce to pop with flavor, because it's going to be spread out on a big piece of dough with cheese trying to hide its flavor. So you really want to make the sauce part of it. So now that I got this diced up the way I want it, I'm going to separate it in 2 piles. I'm going to make a pile like that I'm going to add. I'm going to add half of it when I start to cook it, and the other half I'm going to add after the tomatoes are inside of it and the heat gets up. And the reason I'm doing this is I want to get layers of garlic flavor in my sauce. So half will go in at the beginning, the other half will go in later. One thing you'll notice, garlic, it's sticky. If it's sticky, that's because you got fresh garlic. I've already prepared my tomatoes. I put them in the blender there. I'm going to puree those up. So we got our pot here. You can see we just got barely enough oil to cover the bottom. We're going to fire up our grill. Want about that much heat for this pan here. That's what works for me. We're going to let this heat up for a minute or so, and then we're going to add in our red chili pepper. You'll notice I put all my ingredients over to the next to the stove here so I can work with it easily. I pureed my tomatoes, and I've got a secret ingredient here I didn't show you earlier. It's an optional ingredient, but I put wine in all of my sauces, whether it's a white wine or a red wine. Okay. Now that I can feel the heat in my oil, I'm going to put in my red chili peppers. I don't like that sprinkler, it's too hard to measure, so I'm going to pull the top off of it. I'm going to use my measuring spoon here. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. I should probably use more, but trust me, that'll be enough. Put that inside there. Take your spoon, whisk it around. You're going to want that to sit for about 2 minutes so it can release that nice spicy flavors. Okay, so it's been about 2 minutes. You can hear it popping in the oil. Now I'm going to add my half a stick of butter. Pop that right in there. You can see it's nice and hot in there. That's melting down. I'm going to open up my oregano. I'm going to put a little bit of oregano in there. Not a whole lot, just about that much right now. Now what I'm trying to do is get some of the oregano to release some flavors in there. And I didn't forget about the garlic. The garlic's going to go in next. I'm going to reduce my heat a little bit when you start seeing it bubble like that. As you can see, I've reduced my heat a little bit. I don't want to cook away all my butter. I'm just trying to release the flavors, so I'm trying to get a triage going on here. I got my hot pepper in there, releasing flavors. Got my oregano in there, releasing some flavors. My butter's melting down. It's bringing it all together. It's looking really, really good. So now I'm going to take my one pile of garlic. Start throwing that in there. Now it's important not to overcook your garlic, and that'll ruin the whole sauce. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just letting the garlic break down a little bit. So once I get this going, yeah, you can't smell the aromas coming out right now. Right now my nose is just enjoying all the flavors. And I'm going to get my optional wine together as I can see that bubbling up. Right as the garlic starts releasing all that flavor here, I'm going to add in some of my wine. That'll also cool it down and stop the cooking. Right about there. I'm pouring a little bit of my vino, not a whole lot. Got that going. Mix it around a little bit and pull my heat back up. Now I'm going to let that reduce down a little bit before I start adding in my tomatoes. The first thing I'll be adding in is I'll be adding in my tomato paste, but I want to bring that back up to a boil so it starts reducing. Okay, you can see the heat coming back into it now. The wine's starting to reduce. You see it bubbling down in there. That's what you want. Stir it around. You don't want it to stick to the bottom. You don't want to burn it. The heat's on medium heat here, but it's enough that it'll burn it. So just kind of let it bubble, stir, burn, keep an eye on this. This process only takes a minute or two. You're just trying to reduce the wine down a little bit so you get the flavors of everything mixing in. Okay, you can pull it. Okay, as you can see now, it's been going about 2 minutes. This is about as much as I want everything to reduce down. With any great sauce, this part is the most important of it. Now I'm getting ready to add my paste in. You'll notice I got rid of the bottle, went to a glass. This is for me, not the sauce. Now, to mix the paste in, it's really thick. It'll burn at this heat, so I'm going to turn the heat completely off for now. So it stops the bubbling. And the only reason I'm using paste is because I want the thaw sauce to be a thicker sauce. That's what I use this tool for, to go around so it gets it all out at once. So if you didn't know about that trick, there's a trick for you right there. Now I'm going to take this paste, and I got my heat off. I'm going to start blending it in, making a nice rouge here. A lot of people, when they're making pizza sauce, they're too scared to put all the ingredients in because they're afraid they're going to overpower it. But they got to remember, it's not a pasta sauce. I'd never make a pasta sauce with this much garlic. So keep that in mind. It's for a pizza sauce. So as you can see, this is how your roux starts. So you can see the tomato paste, and it's got the wine, the butter, the oil, the garlic, the oregano. It's all came together now. That's what it should look like. So now I'm going to bring the heat back on to my medium there, and I'm going to pour in my tomatoes I pureed up. I like to pour it over a spoon like this so it doesn't splash up all over me and everywhere else. So this was 2 cans of those tomatoes. Now this is more sauce. This is enough sauce to make about 4 or 5 pizzas, depending how big they are and how much sauce you like on them. Okay, so at this point here, I'm going to add some sugar. We got all that spice in there. Now we want to put some sugar. So there's 1, 2, 3. I know you're thinking I should have used the old jar, but trust me, that's enough. Now I'm going to mix this in. Again, this isn't a pasta sauce. Do not put this much sugar in a pasta sauce if you use sugar at all. Now I'm stirring this in. Now I'm going to add some salt. Tomatoes are very acidic. You can salt to taste, but I make this so much, I know exactly how much sauce to put in. It's about a 50-50 ratio of salt and sugar. There's 1, 2, 3. And the more you make it, you may make some changes. So let's recap real quick. We started out with our oil. We put a little bit of hot pepper in there. We let that cook for a couple of minutes. Then we added our half a stick of butter, broke that down. Then we put our garlic inside of there. And then we put our oregano in there. We let that cook down. We added a little bit of wine to this one. Let that cook down a little bit. Then we turned the heat off and we put in our tomato paste. See, we got a nice thick one. Now I don't have to cook this for 10 hours to reduce it. I've only got to cook it for an hour. Then we added our crushed tomatoes to it. We got our heat going on medium here. It's not very hot at the top yet here. It's going to take a while to get the heat through the tomatoes. But at this point, I'm going to add in the rest of my garlic over here. And as I said earlier, I like to add the garlic in layers. So this will give us layers and layers of flavor of garlic. Okay, cut. Okay, now the garlic, I threw all the garlic. Now I'm just going to mix this garlic around. Get this all in here. There we go. Now it's time to add more oregano. We did a little bit of oregano at the beginning when we were doing with our rouge to break away the flavors. Now we need to put some in here now. And we're going to use a heaping handful. I know what you're thinking, I should use a whole jar, but trust me, that'll be enough. Mix all that in. Now at this point, if you ever wondered what heaven smelled like, you'd be smelling it right about now. There we go. Now with all great sauces, we're going to put some basil in. We're going to do the same amount of basil. We're going to do a heaping amount. I know I should use a whole jar, but trust me, that'll be enough. Mix that all in around. Make sure you scrape down your sides there. Okay, so for our last ingredient, we're going to put our onion halves in. We want the flavor from these. Those are just going to go in like that. You're going to stir it around. And I'm going to reduce my heat. I don't want to burn my tomatoes. I just want to simmer it. So I got my heat reduced. I got my onions in there. I got my oregano. I got my basil. Got my salt. Got my sugar. Got my hot pepper. Got my little bit of butter. A little bit of oil in there. And a little bit of vino. And this is it. This is how you make my spicy hot pizza sauce, kind of a New York style for my pizzas. And I'm going to let this simmer for about an hour, stirring occasionally, turn the heat off, and then I'll store it in containers and use it for my next pizza. And thank you for viewing my video.